All right, everybody, welcome to our versioning and comparing webinar. This is for our Fall Associate Friday class. We are going to go into pretty extensive detail on the ways you can create versions. There's many ways to do it, including a favorite of mine, as well as running comparisons. And you can do that in a lot of different ways as well. So hopefully these additional details that we're going to cover today will fill in some blanks, as well as hopefully help you speed up your workflow. So I know you probably don't have a lot of time to, click on everything and see what it does, but that's kind of what I do. I click on everything, I see what it does, and then I let you know how to do it. So let's get started. All right. Now the agenda today, we're going to go through creating new document versions. And that is something that you will do quite often and probably already have. We're going to talk about how to do it in Word, how to do it in NetDocs, and how to create new versions using Outlook as the attachments. And we're going to talk about comparing. We're going to use Litera Compare. Now, that's a pretty straightforward program in itself, so I'm going to share some of the details with you today. You can compare locally saved documents by selecting them and choosing right-click. NetDocs, there's an option called Send to Application, which you're probably familiar with. And then Outlook. So a lot of times, you'll be sent email attachments. You can actually run the comparison from Outlook instead of having to open them up or save them locally and then running a comparison. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about some bonus tips here. Litera sometimes will not complete a comparison. Depends on how the document was created. If there's some code in there that kind of confuses the application, so that may cause it to freeze. So I'm going to show you an alternative way to run a comparison. So let's get started. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go to NetDocs here. If you're able to follow along, I'll try and go at a pretty decent pace here so that you could kind of shadow these steps with me on your other monitor if it's possible. We're going to search for a document. So a lot of times what you'll do is you'll search for a precedent document or a form, basically a document that you can copy for a new matter. So for the ID here, so I have the ID just to make it a little easier here. 4862 3762 6164. So that's what I'm going to use here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit search. And here is the document that I'm going to use to demonstrate some of these steps. So you see the document here, you see the versions here as well. So for a precedent document, what I want to do is I want to create a new document that's going to be saved under a completely different document number. So I'll check that box. I'll go to more, and I'm going to choose open as read only. So that's going to open up a copy of that document from NetDocs. Now, the document is open, and so we're going to talk about creating versions in Word. So I'm going to go to File, and then Save As, and then ND Save. The F12 button will get you to this same location. So here's the Save As window. So I'm going to close this and just hit F12 on my keyboard. And that brings up the Save As window. So that's kind of a nice key if you want to save yourself from accidentally going to, let's say, File Save. So if you just checked out the document and you meant to create a new document or a new version, if you hit File Save, that will overwrite that existing version. So you don't want to do that. So F12 can be a little helpful. Now the Save As window appears. Now I opened up a read-only copy. You can see here it says read-only at the top. But what NetDocs likes to do, and it likes to help, is if I go File Save and I want to save this as a new document, it assumes already that I'm going to create a new version. And you can see here, it highlighted the previous version that I opened a copy from, and it's got these boxes checked out. So if you ever want to save a new document from a precedent document, you got to make sure that those boxes are unchecked. And then you can go to, let's say, I'm going to go home and I've got my personal folder favorited here. So I'm just going to save it into my personal documents. I'm going to rename the document. I'm just going to put my name in here and I'm going to hit save. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. Now I'm going to make some changes here just so when I run the comparison on this document, I'll be able to see the changes. So, I'll go in here and If you remember Alt-Shift up and down, that will move paragraphs up and down. I'll go ahead and move a paragraph. I'm going to delete a paragraph. And let's say I'll just add a paragraph. So I'm just making some changes to my new document. Okay. And here we go. And let me just delete this, let's say, just so we can get some nice changes to show up in our comparison. Okay, so now I'm going to save it as a new version. I can hit F12 or I can go to File, Save As, and Desave. Okay, now, thankfully, we have version 1 up here. Thankfully, though, it offers to save it as a new version, and that's what I want to do this time, so I'm going to leave those checked. You have a version name and a description. So version name, it's meant to be shorter, so you could add a version name or you could just add a description, either way. But as you're working with new versions, people like to know, why does this version exist? What's the difference between this version and the one before it? So, changes made 11/10/2023. So I'm not sure exactly what kind of description you'd want to put in there. It depends on your practice group. So definitely check with the folks in there or previous documents of what they've described in the versions. So now if I don't see this version in here, so I want to make a new version to a document already in the system, I can click the ellipses up here and I could actually search for that previous document. So these are the same fields you get in the search window in that documents. They're just arranged differently. So here's the document name, here's the author. So this is a previous search, so I would look for a Jensen debt restructuring agreement. And then it should be able to find it. So I'd hit search and it doesn't find anything this time. So I'm going to click on current document and I've already got it in here. So that's great. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. All right. So there we go. Now I have version 2. Fantastic. Okay. So that is pretty much the basics as far as creating a new version in Word. So I'm going to go back to Net Documents. So you would click Net Documents here. It would open up in Edge. And here is the previous version. Now, this is one thing you got to keep in mind is I created a new version from the previous version, but it's still showing me this. So I'm just going to go to Documents, then hit Recent. And then this will show me the document that I actually created. So right here. Now, you can't create new versions if the document's already checked out from Net Documents. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just close this document. So I'm going to go File, Close. And that way it leaves Word open, so I don't have to wait 20 minutes for it to open again. And then from here, I can do a lot of things. So the best option to create a new version from Net Documents of an existing document is checking the box, going to More, and choosing Checkout as New Version. So that's the best option. What it does is it saves a new version first and then opens it up. And so now I would be working in version 3. And I don't have to worry that I'm making changes to the previous version. So check out his new version. It's probably the best option available. Okay. Also, when you have multiple versions, you can click on the version icon here. And this basically takes you to the version console, which is really nice. There's a lot of options in here. So I have 2 versions here. And if I wanted to create a new version, I can just click Add Version, and it would create a version 3 without opening it up here. Also, there is what's called the official version. Now, in the ellipses here, you do have a lot of options. And if I check this earlier version, I can go here. I gotta only have one version. I can go here, and I can convert this to the official version, which means if somebody double clicks on this document here, it's going to open up version 1 for them automatically. So if I created a version 2, I can keep working on version 2. So they're not going to really see version 2 unless they look for version 2. I can work on it. I can make my changes. I can make sure, my spelling's correct. My vocabulary is good, so I'm not embarrassing myself. And then I can go back in here after I save my changes, and then I can convert this back to the official version. And so that will open up, version 2 will open up automatically when I double click on it. So That's pretty useful. I like that option. Another option that might be useful for you as well is, let's say you send version 1 to the client. You don't want anybody to edit that version 1 because that's what the client has, and you have to stay consistent. So you can go up here to the ellipses again, and you can lock this version. Now, locking is a permanent it's a permanent action. So when you click lock version, it's actually saying, hey, guess what? This is going to be locked permanently. Definitely make sure you want to do this before you go ahead and press lock. You can give it a comment. Why is this locked? You could say, client version was sent, and then you can hit lock, and it's going to be locked forever. So it will stay there for eternity. So, all right. So definitely you want to make sure that you can lock a version here, which is actually a great option. Okay, so that is fantastic. Also, there are a couple other options in here. You can download different versions. You can email multiple versions here. So if you want someone else to run a version comparison, you can email version 1 and version 3, whatever versions you like from this window. Let me back up here. So I'm going to close this window. A couple other options that are kind of rare, but they're available. If you check this document and you go to more, there are a couple ones here. Check in as new version or upload as new version. And what that'll do is, if you've got the document, the newer version on your desktop, for whatever reason, you can just choose that file from your desktop here. Go ahead and select the file, hit open, and then that will upload it as a new version of the document. So you can give it a name and a description. Okay, so those are some great options, very flexible. All right, so now you can also create versions from Outlook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to more, and I'm going to email myself multiple versions. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and click in here. I'm going to check both of these versions here, and I'm going to email a copy to myself, just as an example. Okay, so the Outlook email rarely opens up automatically, so you have to look for the blinking orange. And I'll go down here, and there we go. I'm just going to send this to myself. Okay, let me go into Outlook here. All right, so this is how you would save a version from Outlook. So here's the attachments. It's pretty straightforward. You can click the down arrow here, and you can save to NetDocs. And sometimes it's pretty good. Sometimes it can find that original version, but if it doesn't, you can search for the original version here, which may happen from time to time, or if you do have it under recent documents and recently edited, that's a quick way to find it. So there is my version here, and then I could just hit save. Another way to do it, which is pretty nice. So I'm going to hit Windows and the left arrow key to dock Outlook to half of my screen. I'm going to let go of the Windows key, and I'm going to choose NetDocs. So what I can do is I can drag this attachment over the top of that document, and it will offer to make a new version. So see how it's got that blue dotted line? So I can just drag it over the top, add a version name. So let's say client version. So the client sent the document back, and changed all the pay amounts to half the price. Climate changes. I don't know if these jokes are appropriate or not, but I'm going to go ahead and make them anyway. So I'm going to press OK here. And there we go. This is a browser, so it still says version 2. You have to refresh. And if everything works out okay, which it rarely does, version 3. So that's an easy way to create a version from Outlook. Okay. All right. Now let's move on to comparing these versions. So this is some good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and click. Okay, there's a nice shortcut that you can use to run a comparison. You can check both versions, let's say, if you have in this window. Sometimes people will save different versions under different document numbers. It's not the best. It happens, So you could do that. And then you could press F9 on your keyboard and it will just it'll start up the comparison tool. So I'm going to hit F9 and here we go. So I've got both of these documents here. And then I can click Litera Compare, which is the tool we use to compare, and it will run the comparison. Another thing you can do is you can just check this one document, hit F9, and it's going to compare the latest two versions. So it will compare version 2 to 3 automatically. Now, and there we go. It went ahead and ran it. So I'm going to close that window. Okay. Or you can click in here and you can compare any version you want, version 1 to 3. Now, this is what you have to do in NetDocs. You have to click the ellipses, send to application. You probably already know this, but this is kind of an odd link to click on. It doesn't really describe running a comparison, and it brings up that same window. Now, you can only have 2 documents in this window to successfully run the comparison. So I'm going to click these older ones and then just get rid of them. And let me get rid of this guy too. And I think I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. Okay. So there's those 2 versions in there. I think that's right. Okay. We'll see if it's we'll see if it shows us a change. So I'm going to click Litera Compare. And it will start up the comparison here eventually. Okay. Okay. So hopefully I got a little ahead of myself here. So yes. Okay. So this works. It ran a comparison. These are the things I changed. So, you can click on the change and go through the document. Typically, you can trust Litera. There has been times where the change, it didn't really show the correct change. So, it's a good idea just to double check. But these are the changes. You can click through them and it takes you to that place in the document, which is very convenient. If you want to just double check, you can click the original to look at the original document and then the modified, and there we go. So this did add the word outside. Okay. I'm going to go back to the redline tab. Now this window is very flexible. I'm going to hit the Windows right arrow key to dock this window if I can. Oh, it's not letting me. Okay. Let's see if I can. Yeah, it doesn't really dock with this window because it's actually 3 windows here kind of glued together. But I have, let me move my window over. I can, okay, I can drag documents into this little window. So it's a little bit of a juggling act, but I can drag them in there, plop them in there, and then I can run the comparison again. So this window is very flexible. You can drag and drop from email or from local, and then you can just hit the compare again and it will run it. If you click the cylinders here, that will take you to Net Documents, and you could choose the other version. So I'm going to hit select. I could scroll down and I could choose whatever version I want. Hit select, so you can run a comparison almost any way you want. And if you have it in history, you could select it here. If you've chosen the wrong versions, so sometimes they do get flipped, you could just hit switch and then run compare again. Now, one thing that is a really nice feature that is very recent is you can run multiple comparisons in the same window. So a lot of times, you guys are brand new. You're probably doing a lot of comparisons. They're going to throw a lot of documents at you. You can just compare a new tab. And so you could just have multiple comparisons in the same window. You can go back and look at them. Just click on the tabs here. Let me go ahead and compare a new tab. Probably not going to show anything, but we'll hope. I mean, it's probably not going to show any change. Oh, good. Okay, good. So here we go. Here's the tabs showing some changes. Done a lot of work. Sometimes you can choose a different style set. So these are schemes that basically show changes in a particular way. So no moves would actually show all the changes as being added or deleted. So if you move text from one place to another in a document and send it to the client, if they're seeing a move that, it might alert them So sometimes you don't want to show that text is moved because it's still in the document, so the client doesn't have to worry about it. So that's a good choice. You also have session options here, and this will let you, let's say, turn off moves temporarily, or let's say vertical change lines. Actually, I love change lines, so I don't know why that's off. So I'm going to hit recompare. Change lines are the best, obviously. You guys probably know this. They show what has been changed on that line. Otherwise, it's nearly impossible. Like if a comma was changed to a period, so these change lines will indicate, yeah, something has been changed on that line. Okay. The review area here, I don't know. I guess it'd be okay to kind of you can rearrange these panes basically. But you care about save, print, and email. So save here. You could save redline pages only, which is nice. Sometimes you only have 1 or 2 pages out of 300 that gets changed. You could save those redline pages only. You could save a redline to net documents, which is the DMS or local. And you can also convert it into a track change document. Track changes is what Word uses to redline. So it's different from running a comparison because this text you could either accept or reject it. That's what track changes does. So, okay. Oftentimes I kind of don't recommend saving it because, the red lines will be out of date as soon as somebody makes a change. But sometimes you need to send a red line to another person and you'll already have it saved somewhere. So that makes it a little easier. You print red line pages only. That will be a PDF file. And then you also have the print option and then email. And then we have email multiples. So if you've been doing a lot of red lines, multiple tabs, hit this guy, and then you can choose which versions to email. So I'm going to press OK. And then you got these 2 tabs here, which is convenient. This is something that we kind of mentioned before. I think it's a good process, but you want to check with whoever wants the red line. Is you would save the modified as a docx. So the modified is the one with your changes. And this is a usable document. You can make additional changes to this. A red line, I would only save it as a PDF. I literally would never save it as a document because it's just red and blue text. And if you set a red line as a docx, people will make changes to that red line and it's a disaster. So yeah, I personally would never send a red line as a docx because I already did that and it was a disaster. So take my word for it. You can turn a red line into a track change document, which is that intelligent text that you can accept or reject the changes, and then red line pages only. And you can only send those as a PDF file because you have to make a digital printout so the page numbers will stay. In other words, okay. Now, you can click in here and you can rename the attachment before it attaches to the email. So I'll just say redline. But you guys probably remember the edit option in Outlook. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and send email. All right. So we're doing some good time. If you guys want to add anything into the chat while we're working here, please feel free. Okay, so here we go. This is probably the redline pages only. Yeah, there we go. This is the red line that I renamed the attachment. And then this is the modified version. Just remember, you can go to edit here and you can clean this up. For the client, you probably don't want these attachments to look like this. So, and you can rearrange these documents in the order you want them to be read. So yeah, let's say I probably want the official version up front. And if I wanted, I could convert this to a PDF from here by just checking that box. And then I'd press OK. And there we go. So now my attachments are in the order that I want them to be read. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and send this to myself. All right, so we ran a comparison, Litera compare. This is pretty much it. I pretty much covered everything you'll want to do in here. Yeah, it's a great tool. It's very standard. It does what it does, and that's pretty much it. So, oh, one thing I did want to mention though, if you go to the start menu and you just search for compare, 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 compare. You can run comparisons on Word documents, on PDF files, on spreadsheets, and PowerPoint presentations. You could even run a PDF compare to a Word document. And that one's great. They have to be relatively similar for it to work. Otherwise it'll probably crash on you. But these options are available. And you can also run a comparison between a PDF and Excel spreadsheet and a PDF and a PowerPoint. So give those a try. Also, what I did mention before is you can right click on documents here and you have compare with Litera Compare. Also, you can run a comparison from within Outlook. And if you didn't know this, you're probably going to like this one. I can go to Litera and I can compare the attachments. Now, if I've got like multiple attachments, like the documents have been going back and forth, I can choose all these attachments or all these emails, and then I can hit compare attachments. And it's going to put all the attachments into these windows, original, modified, and then I could choose the original and the modified, and then I can hit OK and run the comparison. So that one's pretty neat. All right. Oh, this is a good one, and I think you guys will like this very much. Let's say you have an email and you're just sending some text back and forth like, hey, what do you think of this language? Does this look okay? And then they respond back with the email. So let me just send this to myself. And so you're going back and forth with some language. I'm going to reply. And this time I'm just going to, maybe delete some, or I'll replace this word with this word. And, I'm really improving this paragraph, as you can tell. And then I go ahead and send my suggestions to Ian. Okay, so what you can do is you can compare the text. And it's pretty easy. So I go ahead and highlight the original text, and I can go to Litera and I can add selected text, basically. And it puts it up in this little clipboard. Oh, and there's the suggestions. So I'm going to highlight this, add selected, and now I have these two chunks in this window. Now, this is the reply, RE. So I'm going to choose this as the original, and then I control click as the modified, and I'll click this little Litera icon, and it's going to compare that text. So that is pretty fantastic. Also, and see, so there's the changes. So that's real nice. Then I could save this or just close the red line. Okay. You can also do this from within Word. So let me go into this document here. And so, let's say you're just comparing some text within a document or across multiple documents. You could just highlight the text here, and then you can go to, oh, actually, this is under the Tools ribbon. It's kind of in a hidden place. And then under Tools, there's Litera Compare. And then you can add to compare here. And so that's called Clipboard Compare, because I copied that text up to the clipboard. And then, yeah, see how it looks the same here. Oh, and I could do it between text in Outlook and text in a Word document. I just select both of them and run that little blue icon. Okay. Now, so those are a lot of options. There's some really good options here. If Litera is crashing on a document, and it's usually because text is being copied from a lot of different places, the internet, thrown into a document, Litera may crash. But if that's the case, you could go to review, and there is Words Compare. Now, Words Compare, actually, it works. It almost never crashes. Like this is more powerful, less convenient, but usually you can get that comparison done using this compare tool. So that again is under the review ribbon and the compare option. And this is Word's default comparison. So you can hit the envelope here. You could choose a local document, let's say, as long as it's open. And then I could choose, my other document that's already open here and then hit OK. And it actually creates a comparison, but it's track changes. If you ever want to tell whether text in a document is from Litera Compare or track changes, just hover over that text and it'll give you this little author information. And so those are kind of two different technologies. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there is a difference there. So that's a great option. Okay, we're hitting the end here. I did go a little quickly. I hope that's okay. I just want to show you another possibility. This one's pretty neat. Um, you can create versions on your iPhone. You can't run comparisons, unfortunately, but you can create versions. What you could do is you could install NetDocuments from Comp Portal if it's not already on your phone, and then you can tap the ND icon and it opens up like your recent documents. You could search documents. This is basically the whole document management system on your phone. And then you would just tap that version and the version opens. And then you would hit the little edit icon and it'll let you edit using Microsoft Word as a new version. So you do this from your phone. It's pretty cool. It's probably kind of a last ditch sort of thing, but you could do it. So if you're out having a good time and suddenly, at midnight, you're asked to create a new version, you could give it a shot from your phone. And it does work. Maybe not with a wine glass in one hand. So you'll have to put the wine glass down and then you could just hit the edit button in Word. And then once you're done making changes, just hit done. And it will actually save it as a new version on NetDocs. So, all right, you guys. Okay, so that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. You're welcome to take off. I know you guys are busy. So thank you so much for attending. And if you want to stay on and we could talk about this, we could talk about anything else, it's totally fine. So, all right, you guys. So I'll
So
go ahead.
I'm gonna have a question for you. Pretty much everyone hung up. So in the beginning, when you were showing creating those new versions, um, what was the goal for that?
Oh, you mean just the content that I was presenting?
Yeah, in the very beginning, because
Yeah.
I've never. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Actually,
No, I
yeah.
just never have done that. And like, I just like I don't know, like, creating the new version, read only, then creating the like. What was like the thought process to teach that? Like,
Ah,
what would be the use case for doing that, I guess?
yeah. So yeah, good question. So lawyers have access to document databases, precedent libraries, they're called,
Mhm.
and or forms. They use the word forms. So basically, it's an agreement that is filled out, and it probably has a client name in there, and they just open it up, replace the client name, and it's pretty much a full-fledged agreement that you could send
Mhm.
to a new client.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, so so what I did is I took this form and I did the open read only so I could create a new document for myself. So you wouldn't want to open this up and then make a bunch of changes and then just hit save because that would break the
Ruin the first,
form.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So people are going to see these changes. Um,
And you wanted to do it as a new document as opposed to a new version because you're doing it for, let's say, client A, and then you're doing it for client B.
yeah, exactly. So the form will have probably some fake client or maybe a client from 20 years ago or something. Yeah, and so you would do open as new version. There is no option to like open as a new document, which would be fantastic.
Okay.
Uh, and you know what? Maybe if there might be a version that I don't know of, but I could not find a open as a new document. That would be pretty fantastic. So open as read only was the closest that I could find, basically.
And I
Um,
guess you could do move copy and you could copy the doc.
you know what? I did show that in a previous class, but I feel like it gets a little confusing because it
Confusing?
uses
Okay.
yeah, see, because it uses this window, and then you're like, okay, what are these? I guess these are folders I was in before.
Yeah. So it's where you're going to put it in what workspace. Yeah, 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 yeah. I hear
Yeah.
you. Yep.
And then there's move, copy, and file. So move actually moves it, copy makes a copy, and then file makes like a hyperlink to the same document in two locations. And so I did kind of skip this whole thing because I just feel like it's a
Too
little too
much.
much. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Um, yeah, good question. So
Right now I get it. Okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
I don't know how often lawyers make versions because I've heard like 20 to 70 versions for some documents, which I think is a little crazy. So I feel like if you're going to create a new version, you should probably have some sort of reason. If maybe the changes are like really significant, or maybe like the dollar amount might be different. That might be a good reason to like go with a whole new version, you know?
Well, I've definitely seen, versions, let's say 40 versions, but it would be because client A made these changes, client B made those changes, then we made additional changes, and then you're comparing. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so that's possible, especially if you've got a very, I don't want to say, I guess, complex, deal going on.
Uh-huh.
And let's say you've got, attorney A making changes, then the partner's going back and making changes, and then attorney A gets sick and now attorney B's working on it. So there could
Yeah.
be so many, reasons why a lot of versions are there.
Oh,
Um,
that's
yeah,
that's
you know what I'm saying?
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can kind of see like a partner or an associate and a partner. They don't want to, if there's a mistake in there, I guess like at least one person will get the blame.
Yeah, it's like they
So,
don't want to like step on each other's stuff,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think instead of maybe using track changes, they'd rather use versioning. Because again, I don't particularly like track changes, but that's just me. It can be
Yeah.
overwhelming and confusing. So,
Hmm.
I like, so I think comparisons kind of helps that out. And then you can compare to each other and just all that stuff. So anyway,
Yeah, that's great feedback because I was kind of wondering like track changes, you're only dealing with one document, but doing a comparison, you're dealing with two documents and you're creating a third document. But like you said, track changes can get really complicated. If you leave it on, it's still there. If you send that to the client on accident, they're going to see these track changes, and that can be embarrassing too. So it's probably more dangerous as well, maybe.
yeah, depending on what's going on with the docs, exactly, and
Yeah,
who they're sending to and what's going on with the deal and all that stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, there are times where I think it's good, because it'll say Linda Gannon made these changes and Ian Jensen made these changes, and then the client will see it and be like, okay, I agree with Linda's changes. I don't agree with or whatever. There
yeah,
are reasons for everything. So
yeah. Oh,
anyway,
one last thing, real quick on that note too, is so people get confused with track changes and compare, right? Uh, maybe.
well, I mean, they could. I mean, it just
Okay.
really depends. If you've got the track tab open and you see that the tracks are on
Yeah.
and you see that the track is on at the bottom of word two, you may not. It just depends on what you're looking at and what's going on with the document. But I don't even know here if a lot of people even use track changes. I've not seen it often. Have you?
No, no, no. Yeah, they say Litera compares is way easier. Also, Litera compare, like if you took a track change document and compared it to a different document, it'll just accept all the changes in the track change. So that's
Mm,
kind of cool. But sometimes people will open up a comparison document, which is just red and blue text,
uh-huh.
and then they'll turn on track changes. That's what happened to me. It's just like, okay, wait, there's red text and then there's track change text and then you're just trying to deal with that. So yeah,
Right.
that's a good time. So
And I also think that again, this may be wrong, but when Word first came out and the lawyers were working with, and this is like 25 years ago, I don't think we had a comparison application. So I think track changes may have been the only thing back then. Again, my memory may not serve me correctly, but
yeah,
I don't recall a comparison, application 25 years ago. So it's
yeah,
very possible that track was the only way, and
mhm,
then comparison came into the picture.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's probably only like maybe 7 to 10 years at most. I think I agree with you on that for sure.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
all right. Well, that was great.
Yeah,
I
thanks
learned
you.
some things. Again, that's why I like coming to classes because there's always something that you see that like, oh, like when you're working and you're like, oh, maybe I should do this. And Ian taught me that or whatever. There's always something to catch in a class. So, that was good.
Ah, thanks, Linda. I really appreciate that. That's
Yeah, you're
awesome.
welcome. I don't even know about comparing text. So that, again, again, because if you don't use it, you're not,
Mm.
and if you don't teach it, because that's something you don't teach when we taught the attorneys when they first came in, because it's how much can you teach. So,
Yeah.
that was good. Yeah, you always learn something. So
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks, Linda. I appreciate that.
you're
That's very
welcome.
kind of you.
You're welcome.
All
All
right.
right.
Well, you
Have a
guys
great
have,
rest of the day.
yeah, have a good weekend.
You too.
Woohoo. All
Okay.
right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.